First contact, 2,000 words. The starship Horizon drifted silently through the inky void of space, its sleek hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the main view screen as it displayed a swirling nebula of purple and blue gases. The sight never failed to take her breath away, even after years of space exploration. "Captain, we're picking up an anomalous reading," announced Lieutenant Raj Patel from his station at the sensor array. His fingers danced across the holographic interface, bringing up a detailed scan of the surrounding space. Sarah turned, her interest piqued. "What kind of anomaly, Lieutenant?" Raj furrowed his brow, studying the data scrolling across his screen. "It appears to be a gravitational disturbance, approximately half a light year from our current position. It doesn't match any known natural phenomena in our database." "Interesting," Sarah mused, stroking her chin thoughtfully. "Could it be a cloaked ship?" "Possible, but unlikely," Raj replied. "The energy signature is unlike anything we've encountered before. It's alien." A ripple of excitement spread through the bridge crew. The Horizon was on a deep space exploration mission, seeking out new life and civilizations. If this anomaly was indeed of alien origin, it could be the discovery of the century. Sarah made her decision quickly. "Helm, set a course for the anomaly. Let's go see what we found." As the Horizon changed direction, Sarah felt a familiar mix of anticipation and anxiety settle in her stomach. First contact situations were always delicate, filled with potential for both wonder and danger. She trained for this her entire career, but nothing could truly prepare you for the unknown. Hours passed as the Horizon approached the source of the anomaly. The bridge crew remained alert, each member focused intently on their duties. As they drew closer, the ship's sensors began to pick up more detailed information. "Captain, I'm detecting a large structure," Raj reported, his voice tinged with awe. "It appears to be a ship, and it's massive." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing an astonishing sight. A colossal vessel hung in space before them, its design unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Its hull was a shifting kaleidoscope of colors, seeming to ripple and flow like liquid metal. Organic curves and crystalline protrusions gave it an almost living appearance. "My God," Sarah breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful." The alien ship dwarfed the Horizon, easily 10 times its size. As they watched, portions of its hull began to glow with a soft, pulsating light. "Captain, we're being scanned," Raj announced, his fingers flying over his console. "Their technology is incredibly advanced. They're cutting through our shields like they aren't even there." Sarah straightened her uniform, taking a deep breath to center herself. "Open a channel. All frequencies. Let's introduce ourselves." The communications officer nodded, and Sarah cleared her throat before speaking. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We come in peace and friendship, seeking to learn about new civilizations. We request permission to establish diplomatic contact." For several tense moments, there was no response. Then, without warning, a shimmering hologram materialized on the bridge. It coalesced into a vaguely humanoid form, tall and slender, with iridescent skin that seemed to shift and swirl like the hull of their ship. The alien's large, almond-shaped eyes blinked slowly as it regarded the human crew. When it spoke, its voice was a melodious trill that somehow conveyed meaning directly into their minds. "Greetings, beings of Earth. I am Zaraela, emissary of the Luminary Collective. Your presence here is unexpected." Sarah stepped forward, maintaining a respectful distance from the hologram. "Thank you for responding, Emissary Zaraela. We're honored to make your acquaintance. We're on a mission of peaceful exploration and scientific discovery." Zaraela's head tilted slightly, an almost bird-like motion. "Exploration. How curious. Your vessel seems rather primitive for such an endeavor." Sarah felt a flicker of irritation at the dismissive tone, but kept her expression neutral. "We may not be as technologically advanced as your people, but we've come a long way in a short time. Humanity is driven by an insatiable curiosity about the universe and its inhabitants. The alien emissaries seem to consider this for a moment. Curiosity can be a double-edged sword, Captain Chen. It can lead to great discoveries, but also to great dangers. Tell me, how did you find us? We detected a gravitational anomaly and came to investigate, Sarah explained. We had no idea we'd encounter another spacefaring civilization. Zarella's form shimmered, its colors shifting to cooler tones. I see. And what do you hope to gain from this encounter? Sarah smiled warmly, spreading her hands in a gesture of openness. Knowledge, understanding, and hopefully, friendship. We believe that diversity makes us stronger, and that by learning from other cultures, we can grow and evolve as a species. The alien was silent for a long moment, its large eyes seemingly peering into Sarah's very soul. Finally, it spoke again. Your words are admirable, Captain. However, actions speak louder than words, as I believe your species says. We have encountered other races who claimed peaceful intentions, only to prove deceitful and aggressive. Sarah nodded solemnly. I understand your caution, emissary. We're prepared to demonstrate our sincerity in any way you deem appropriate. Perhaps we could arrange a cultural exchange. We'd be honored to host a delegation from your people aboard our ship, and if you're willing, we'd love to learn more about your civilization as well. Zarella's form shimmered again, this time with hints of warmer colors. An interesting proposal, Captain. We will consider it. For now, you have permission to remain in this area. We will contact you again once we have reached a decision. With that, the hologram vanished, leaving the bridge crew of the Horizon in stunned silence. Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Well, that was intense. Opinions, everyone. Her first officer, Commander Jack Morrison, spoke up. They seemed wary, but not outright hostile. I think we have a chance at establishing positive relations if we tread carefully. I agree, Sarah said, nodding. Let's use this time to prepare. I want detailed cultural briefings for the entire crew. If we get the chance to interact more closely with the luminary, we need to be ready to put our best foot forward. As the crew set about their tasks with renewed energy, Sarah couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. They were on the cusp of something monumental, a true first contact situation that could change the course of human history. The next few days would be crucial, and she was determined to make the most of this incredible opportunity. Little did she know that the cultural differences between humans and luminary ran far deeper than anyone could have anticipated, and that the coming interactions would test the limits of diplomacy, understanding, and human ingenuity in ways she could never have imagined. Cultural clashes. The anticipation aboard the Horizon was palpable as Captain Sarah Chen led a small delegation towards the luminary shuttle. After 3 days of tense waiting, the aliens had finally extended an invitation for a select group of humans to visit their massive vessel. Sarah had chosen her team carefully. Commander Jack Morrison for security, Dr. Amelia Zhao for scientific expertise, and linguist Dr. Elias Okafor to assist with communication. As they approached the shuttle, Sarah marveled at its design. Like the larger ship, it seemed to be alive, its surface rippling with iridescent colors. There was no visible door or hatch, yet as they drew near, a portion of the hull simply melted away, revealing a softly lit interior. Well, here goes nothing, Sarah murmured, taking a deep breath before stepping inside. The interior of the shuttle was unlike anything they had ever seen. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and instead of seats, there were what appeared to be form-fitting pods. As the humans hesitated, a melodious voice filled their minds. Welcome, Earth beings. Please, make yourselves comfortable. The journey to our ship will be brief. Exchanging nervous glances, the team settled into the pods, which immediately conformed to their bodies. Sarah felt a momentary panic as the material enveloped her, but it was surprisingly comfortable, almost like floating in warm water. True to the luminary's word, the journey was short. Within minutes, they found themselves disembarking into a vast, cathedral-like space aboard the alien vessel. Zar-Ela was waiting for them, flanked by several other luminary. Captain Chin, the alien emissary, greeted, its mental voice tinged with what Sarah interpreted as warmth. "We are pleased you accepted our invitation. We hope this exchange will be enlightening for both our peoples." Sarah bowed slightly. "Thank you for having us, emissary. We're honored to be here and eager to learn." As Zar-Ela began to lead them on a tour of the ship, Dr. Zhao couldn't contain her scientific curiosity. "Emissary, if I may ask, what powers your vessel? The energy readings we detected are unlike anything we've ever encountered." The alien's colors shifted to a deep blue. "Ah, Dr. Zhao, your inquisitiveness is admirable. Our ship harnesses the energy of quantum fluctuations in subspace. I'm afraid a more detailed explanation would be beyond your current level of understanding." Dr. Zhao's excitement dimmed slightly at the condescending tone, but she pressed on. "Perhaps you could give us a simplified explanation. We may surprise you with how quickly we can grasp new concepts." Zar-Ela seemed to consider this for a moment. "Very well. Imagine that space-time is a vast ocean, and our ship is a specialized fish that can create and ride its own waves. Does this analogy help?" Before Dr. Zhao could respond, they entered a new area of the ship. The temperature noticeably increased, and the air became thick with humidity. Sarah felt sweat beginning to bead on her forehead. "This is our biosphere," Zar-Ela explained. "It replicates the conditions of our homeworld. We find it most comfortable." Commander Morrison shifted uncomfortably, his uniform already starting to stick to his skin. "It's quite warm," he commented diplomatically. Zar-Ela's form shimmered, its colors shifting to a curious yellow. "Is it? We were under the impression that Earth had similar climate regions. Perhaps we misunderstood your environmental data." Dr. Okafor stepped in, his linguistic skills coming to the fore. "Earth has a wide range of climates, emissary. Some regions are indeed this warm and humid, but many of us are accustomed to cooler, drier conditions." "Fascinating," Zar-Ela trilled. "And yet you all wear these constrictive coverings, regardless of the temperature." Sarah glanced down at her uniform, suddenly aware of how it might appear to the aliens. The luminary themselves didn't seem to wear anything that could be considered clothing, their shimmering bodies apparently sufficient for both modesty and protection. "Our uniforms serve multiple purposes," Sarah explained. "They protect us, identify our roles, and, well, in our culture, it's customary to keep our bodies covered in public settings." Zar-Ela's colors swirled in what seemed to be confusion. "How peculiar. Does this not impede your ability to regulate your body temperature? And how do you perform proper hygiene rituals?" The humans exchanged uncomfortable glances. "We have different methods of maintaining hygiene," Sarah said carefully. "Perhaps we could discuss that at another time." As they continued the tour, the cultural differences became increasingly apparent. The luminaries' living quarters were entirely communal, with no concept of private space. Their method of consuming nutrients involved absorbing energy directly from their environment, a process that left the humans both fascinated and slightly nauseated. The most challenging moment came when they reached what Zar-Ela called the purification chamber. The large, misty room was filled with luminary, their bodies intertwined as they absorbed some kind of radiant energy. "This is where we cleanse our energy fields and strengthen our communal bonds," Zar-Ela explained. "Please, join us. It's an essential part of our cultural exchange." Sarah felt a moment of panic. "Ah, emissary, while we appreciate the offer, I'm not sure we're physically compatible with this process." Zar-Ela's colors darkened slightly. "Nonsense. All beings can benefit from energy purification. You must simply remove those restrictive coverings and open yourselves to the experience." The humans froze, looks of shock and discomfort on their faces. Commander Morrison stepped forward, his posture tense. With all due respect, emissary, we can't do that. It goes against our cultural norms and personal boundaries. Zarella's form pulsed with what seemed to be frustration. You claim to seek understanding, yet you refuse to participate in our most fundamental rituals. How can we trust your intentions if you won't even bare yourselves to us? The situation was rapidly deteriorating. Sarah could see the confusion and growing annoyance in the luminary's swirling colors, while her own team was becoming increasingly uncomfortable and defensive. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped forward. Emissary Zarela, please understand. Our hesitation is not out of disrespect or lack of interest. Our species has very different concepts of privacy and physical intimacy. Disrobing in public or in front of those we just met is considered inappropriate and can cause significant discomfort. Zarella's colors swirled chaotically for a moment before settling into a more neutral pattern. I see. This is most unexpected. We assumed that all advanced species would have moved beyond such primitive taboos. Dr. Okafor winced at the term primitive, but kept his voice calm as he spoke. Emissary, perhaps we could find a compromise. A way to participate in your ritual that doesn't violate our cultural norms. For a tense moment, it seemed as though the entire exchange might fall apart. Then, surprisingly, one of the other luminary floated forward. Its mental voice was softer, almost melodic. Zarela, remember the protocols of cosmic diversity. Did not the ancient ones teach us that true understanding comes from respecting differences, not demanding conformity? The tension in the room seemed to dissipate slightly. Zarella's colors shifted to a softer hue. You are right, Veldera. I allowed my enthusiasm to override my judgment. Turning back to the humans, the emissary continued. Captain Chen, I apologize for my insensitivity. Perhaps we could adjourn to a neutral space and engage in a cultural dialogue instead. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. That would be most welcome. Emissary, thank you for your understanding. As they moved to a quieter area of the ship, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the challenges they'd faced in just a few short hours. The gulf between their cultures was vast, filled with potential misunderstandings and inadvertent offenses. Yet there was also a genuine curiosity on both sides, a desire to bridge that gap. Settling into a room that seemed designed for discussions, with comfortable, adaptable seating for beings of various physiologies, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. This was why she had joined the exploration course, to face the unknown, to stretch the boundaries of human understanding, and to forge connections across the cosmic divide. As Zarela began to explain more about luminary culture and history, Sarah leaned forward, her earlier discomfort forgotten in the face of new knowledge. They had a long way to go in building trust and understanding, but this was a start. Little did any of them know that their budding relationship would soon be put to the ultimate test, as a danger neither humans nor luminary had anticipated lurked just beyond their perception, waiting to strike. Hidden dangers. As the cultural exchange between the humans and luminary progressed, a sense of cautious optimism began to grow. Despite their vast differences, both species were finding common ground in their shared curiosity about the universe. Captain Sarah Chen felt a growing respect for the aliens' advanced scientific knowledge, while Zarela seemed increasingly intrigued by humanity's adaptability and resilience. Their discussion was suddenly interrupted by a piercing alarm that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the luminary ship. Zarela's form flickered, its colors shifting to a deep, alarming red. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, instinctively reaching for a communicator that wasn't there. Zarela's mental voice was tense. "We're detecting a massive energy surge from the nearby planet. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered." Dr. Zhao leaned forward, her scientific curiosity piqued despite the tension. "The planet. But our initial scans showed it to be uninhabited." "As did ours," Zarela replied, its form rippling with concern. "Yet something down there is emanating power levels that rival a small star." Commander Morrison's hand instinctively went to where his sidearm would usually be. Could it be a weapon? Are we under attack? Zarella's colors swirled in a pattern that Sarah was beginning to recognize as uncertainty. Unknown. Our sensors are having difficulty penetrating the energy field. We need to investigate further. Sarah nodded, her mind racing with the implications. We should coordinate our efforts. The horizon may be able to provide a different perspective with our sensors. For a moment, Zarella seemed to hesitate, centuries of ingrained caution warring with the need for cooperation. Finally, the alien emissary nodded, its form stabilizing. Agreed. We will establish a joint command center to monitor the situation. As they rushed to set up the command center, linking the advanced luminary systems with the more modest but specialized equipment from the horizon, Sarah couldn't shake a feeling of foreboding. Something about this situation felt wrong, beyond just the unexpected energy readings. Hours passed in a flurry of activity. Human and luminary scientists worked side by side, their earlier cultural clashes forgotten in the face of this new mystery. Dr. Zhao and her luminary counterpart, a being called Nixera, were poring over the sensor data, trying to make sense of the bizarre readings. Look at this energy pattern, Dr. Zhao said, pointing to a series of oscillating waves on her holographic display. It's almost like it's alive. Nixera's form pulsed with a mix of excitement and trepidation. You're right. These fluctuations are reminiscent of neural patterns, but on a massive scale. Whatever this is, it's not just a natural phenomenon. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Are you saying there's some kind of giant organism on that planet? Before anyone could respond, a new alarm blared. Commander Morrison's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, we're detecting a gravitational anomaly. Something's coming through. All eyes turned to the main view screen. The space above the planet seemed to ripple and tear, like fabric being ripped apart. From the tear emerged a massive structure, dark and ominous, its surface covered in pulsating veins of eerie green energy. By the cosmic aether, Zarilla breathed, its mental voice filled with awe and terror. It's a world ship. Sarah turned to the alien emissary, confusion and fear warring in her mind. A world ship? What does that mean? Zarella's form seemed to shrink, its colors fading to a pale, sickly hue. They are the stuff of legend, horrors from the darkest corners of the galaxy, planet-sized vessels that consume entire worlds, converting all matter and energy into fuel for their endless journey. As they watched, tendrils of energy began to extend from the world ship towards the planet below. Where they touched, the surface seemed to disintegrate, pulled upwards in streams of matter and energy. It's feeding, Dr. Zhao whispered, her face pale with shock. Commander Morrison's voice was grim. Captain, at the current rate of consumption, that thing will devour the entire planet in less than 48 hours. And then it will come for us. Sarah finished, her mind racing. Zarilla, we need options. Can your weapons systems damage that thing? The luminary emissary's colors swirled in patterns of doubt and fear. Our weapons are formidable, but against a world ship, we would be like insects trying to stop a supernova. Sarah felt frustration building. There has to be something we can do. We can't just sit here and watch that thing destroy an entire world. As if in response to her outburst, a new alert sounded. Lieutenant Raj Patel's voice came through the comm system, tight with tension. Captain, we're detecting multiple smaller craft launching from the world ship. They're on an intercept course with both our ships. Battle stations. Sarah barked, her training kicking in despite the unprecedented nature of the threat. Zarella, can your ship's defenses handle these smaller craft? The alien emissary's form stabilized, purpose overtaking fear. Yes, our point defense systems should be effective against vessels of that size. But Captain, we cannot hope to defeat the world ship itself. Sarah's mind raced, considering and discarding options at lightning speed. We don't need to defeat it, she said slowly, an idea forming. We just need to stop it from feeding. Dr. Zhao, you said the energy patterns looked alive, right? like neural patterns. Dr. Zhao nodded, her eyes widening as she began to catch on. Yes, but on a massive scale. Are you thinking that it might have a consciousness? Exactly. Sarah turned to Zarela. You said your people can manipulate energy fields. Is there any way you could interface with the world ship's consciousness? Zarela's colors shifted rapidly, a mix of shock, fear, and dawning hope. It's possible, but incredibly dangerous. The mind of such a being would be vast, alien beyond comprehension. To touch it would risk madness, or worse. Sarah nodded grimly. I understand, but it might be our only chance. If we can distract it, even for a moment, it might give us an opening to attack its feeding mechanism. As they discussed the desperate plan, the first wave of smaller craft from the world ship reached them. The space around the luminary vessel and the horizon lit up with weapons fire. Streams of purple energy lanced out from the alien ship, while the horizon's more conventional weaponry blazed. Shields holding at 82%, Commander Morrison reported, his voice steady despite the chaos. But we're vastly outnumbered. We can't keep this up indefinitely. Sarah gritted her teeth. We don't need indefinitely. We just need enough time. Zarela, are your people ready? The luminary emissary's form pulsed with determination. We are. We've assembled our strongest telepaths. They will attempt to make contact with the world ship's consciousness. As another barrage of enemy fire rocked the ships, Sarah gave the order. Do it. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, the luminary ship began to glow with an intense, otherworldly light. Sarah felt a strange pressure in her mind, as if something vast and incomprehensible was pressing against the edges of her consciousness. On the view screen, the world ship's movements seemed to falter. Its feeding tendrils wavered, momentarily releasing their hold on the planet below. Now, Sarah shouted, target those tendrils with everything we've got. Both ships opened fire, concentrating all their firepower on the points where the world ship connected to the planet. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed to have no effect. Then, with a silent flash of light, one of the tendrils severed. A psychic scream tore through Sarah's mind, a sound of rage and pain so intense it brought her to her knees. Around her, she saw both humans and luminary reeling from the mental assault. Again, she managed to gasp out. Hit it again. Summoning every ounce of strength and determination, the combined fleet launched another salvo. This time, 3 more tendrils snapped, their connections to the planet dissolving in bursts of wild energy. The world ship shuddered, its massive form beginning to list to one side. The smaller craft attacking them suddenly broke off, racing back towards their wounded parent. As quickly as it had begun, the battle was over. The world ship, unable to maintain its position without its feeding tendrils, began to drift away from the planet. With a final, reality-bending ripple, it vanished back into whatever dark dimension it had emerged from. In the sudden silence, Sarah looked around the command center. Humans and luminary alike were picking themselves up, looks of stunned disbelief on their faces, or in the aliens' case, rippling through their color patterns. Did we just save a planet from being eaten? Dr. Zhao asked, her voice shaky but filled with wonder. Zarela's form slowly stabilized, its colors returning to a more normal state. It appears we did, Dr. Zhao. Though I fear we've only driven the world ship away temporarily. Such beings do not give up their prey easily. Sarah nodded, the weight of their accomplishment and the potential consequences settling on her shoulders. Then we need to be ready. This threat isn't just to one planet or one species. If these world ships are out there, consuming entire worlds. She let the thought trail off, but she could see understanding dawning in the eyes and color patterns of those around her. What had begun as a simple cultural exchange had transformed into something far more significant. Humans and luminary had just fought side by side against a threat beyond their wildest imaginings. And won. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Sarah realized that everything had changed. The petty cultural misunderstandings of earlier seemed trivial in the face of this cosmic horror. They had glimpsed the true scale of the universe's dangers, and in doing so, found a common purpose that transcended their differences. Zaraela, Sarah said, turning to the alien emissary with newfound respect and camaraderie. I think we have a lot to discuss about the future. The luminary's form pulsed with agreement, its colors a mix of determination and hope. Indeed we do, Captain Chen. Indeed we do. As they began to plan for the challenges ahead, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement beneath her exhaustion. They had faced the unknown and emerged victorious. Whatever came next, they would face it together, humans and luminary, united against the darkness of the cosmos. Unlikely alliance. In the days following the encounter with the world ship, a flurry of activity consumed both the horizon and the luminary vessel. The near destruction of an entire planet had shaken both species to their core, forcing them to reevaluate their place in the universe and their relationship with each other. Captain Sarah Chen found herself in a series of intense strategic meetings with Zaraela and other high-ranking luminary. The conference room aboard the alien ship pulsed with a soft, calming light, a stark contrast to the tension that filled the air. Our long-range sensors have detected similar energy signatures in 3 neighboring star systems, Zaraela reported, its form shimmering with concern. We believe more world ships may be active in this sector of the galaxy. Sarah leaned forward, her brow furrowed in concentration. Do we have any idea how many of these things are out there, or where they came from? A new voice chimed in, the mental projection tinged with age and wisdom. It belonged to Ashura, a luminary elder who had joined the discussions. There are legends, ancient tales passed down through millennia, of a time when the world ships were more numerous. They speak of entire galaxies consumed, of civilizations rising and falling in their wake. Dr. Amelia Zhao, who had been quietly taking notes, looked up with a mix of fascination and horror. But surely, if they were so numerous and destructive, we'd have seen evidence of their activities before now. Ashura's form rippled in what Sarah had come to recognize as a shrug. The universe is vast, Dr. Zhao. And the world ships are patient. They may hibernate for eons between feedings, drifting in the void between galaxies. Commander Jack Morrison, ever the pragmatist, cut to the chase. That's all very interesting, but what matters now is how we stop them. Our weapons barely scratched that thing. We got lucky once, but we can't count on that happening again. Zaraela's colors shifted to a determined blue. Agreed. We need to pool our resources and knowledge. The Luminary have advanced energy manipulation technologies, but we lack the tactical experience that humans seem to possess. Sarah nodded, a plan already forming in her mind. We'll need to establish a joint task force. Combine our best scientists, tacticians, and engineers. If we can't overpower these world ships, we'll have to outsmart them. As the meeting progressed, the outline of their alliance began to take shape. The Luminary would share their advanced sensor technology, allowing for earlier detection of world ship activity. In return, the humans would provide military strategies and help design more effective weapon systems. But it wasn't just about military might. Both species recognized the need for a deeper understanding of their enemy. We need to know more about the world ships themselves, Sarah insisted. Their origins, their motivations, if they even have motivations beyond simple consumption. Dr. Elias Okafor, who had been quietly observing until now, spoke up. Captain, if I may, during the battle, when the luminary telepaths made contact with the world ship's consciousness, did they glean any useful information? All eyes turned to Zaraela, whose form flickered with what seemed to be discomfort. The experience was overwhelming. Most of our telepaths are still recovering, but there were impressions, fragments of thought, and memory. Anything specific? Sarah pressed gently. Zaraela's colors swirled in concentration. Hunger, an all-consuming hunger that's existed for eons. But beneath that, loneliness, a vast, cosmic loneliness that defies description. The room fell silent as they contemplated the implications. Dr. Zhao was the first to break the silence. Are you saying these things might be sentient, not just some kind of cosmic predator, but an actual intelligent species? It's possible, Eshra interjected. The universe has produced life forms beyond our wildest imaginations. Perhaps the world ships are simply so alien, so far removed from our understanding of life, that we can't comprehend their existence. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The idea that they might be dealing with a sentient species, no matter how alien, added a whole new layer of complexity to their situation. If they are sentient, then maybe there's a chance for communication, for negotiation. Commander Morrison scoffed. Negotiate with something that eats planets. With all due respect, Captain, that seems like a stretch. Maybe, Sarah conceded, but we have to consider all options. We can't just declare war on a species we barely understand, no matter how threatening they seem. As the discussion continued, a plan began to take shape. They would form joint research teams to study the data collected during their encounter with the world ship. Meanwhile, a combined fleet would be assembled to investigate the nearby systems where similar energy signatures had been detected. But perhaps most importantly, they would attempt to establish some form of communication with the world ships. It was a long shot, but if there was even a chance of avoiding all-out war, they had to try. As the meeting drew to a close, Sarah found herself standing next to Zarela, both of them gazing out at the stars through a large viewing portal. You know, Sarah said softly, a week ago, I never would have imagined standing here, planning an interstellar alliance with an alien species. Zarela's form shimmered with what Sarah had come to recognize as amusement. And I never imagined I would find humans to be such intriguing allies. Your species continues to surprise me, Captain Chen. Sarah smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. We may be primitive by your standards, but we're quick learners. Indeed you are, Zarela agreed. Your adaptability is quite remarkable. It may well be the key to our survival in the face of this threat. As they continued to gaze at the stars, Sarah felt a mix of emotions wash over her. Fear of the unknown dangers that lay ahead, certainly, but also hope. Hope that this unlikely alliance might be the beginning of something greater, a joining of two species in common cause that could change the course of galactic history. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The Horizons crew worked tirelessly alongside their luminary counterparts, overcoming language barriers and cultural differences in their shared quest for knowledge and survival. Dr. Zhao found herself in scientific heaven, working with luminary researchers to unravel the mysteries of the world ship's energy patterns. It's incredible, she exclaimed during one of their daily briefings. The way they manipulate subspace is unlike anything we've ever seen. If we could harness even a fraction of that power. Commander Morrison, meanwhile, was deep in tactical discussions with luminary strategists. Their technology gives us an edge, he reported, but their tactical thinking is, well, alien. They're not used to thinking in terms of conflict. We're having to teach them the basics of military strategy. But perhaps the most surprising developments came from Dr. Okafor and his team of linguists and xenobiologists. Working with the recovering luminary telepaths, they had begun to piece together fragments of the world ship's consciousness. It's not a language, not in any sense we understand, Dr. Okafor explained, his eyes alight with excitement. It's more like pure thought, concepts and emotions on a scale we can barely comprehend. But we're making progress in interpreting it. As the days passed, their fledgling alliance grew stronger. Cultural misunderstandings still occurred, of course. There was the incident where a group of luminary were horrified to discover that humans consumed deceased organic matter, ate meat, or the time when a human engineer accidentally insulted an entire luminary family group by admiring their vibrant excretions, their color patterns. But with each misunderstanding came new opportunities for learning and growth. Slowly but surely, humans and luminary were beginning to understand each other on a deeper level. It was during one of these cultural exchange sessions that the alarm sounded. Sarah and Zaraela, who had been discussing the finer points of human music, the luminary found it fascinating but slightly painful, rushed to the command center. "Report," Sarah barked as she entered. Lieutenant Raj Patel's fingers flew over his console. Long-range sensors have picked up a massive energy surge in the Proxima system. It matches the world ship's signature. Sarah's heart raced. They weren't ready. Their research was still in its early stages, their joint fleet barely assembled. But ready or not, the threat had arrived. She turned to Zaraela, seeing her own mix of fear and determination reflected in the alien swirling colors. "Well, my friend," she said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, "it looks like our alliance is about to face its first real test." Zaraela's form pulsed with agreement. "Indeed, Captain Chen. Let us hope that together we are equal to the challenge that awaits us." As the command center burst into activity, crews scrambling to prepare for the coming confrontation, Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. In just a few short weeks, these aliens had gone from mysterious potential threats to trusted allies. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The joint fleet of human and luminary ships began to assemble, a sight that would have been unthinkable mere weeks ago. As they prepared to jump to the Proxima system, Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and hope. They were about to embark on a mission that could determine the fate of not just their own species, but potentially all life in the galaxy. "All ships report ready, Captain," Commander Morrison announced. Sarah nodded, exchanging a final glance with Zaraela. "Then let's go save a world." As the fleet engaged their drives, jumping into the unknown, Sarah silently hoped that their unlikely alliance would be strong enough to face whatever awaited them. The true test of their newfound unity was about to begin. A new understanding. The combined human luminary fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the outskirts of the Proxima system. The view screen on the Horizon's bridge lit up with a sight that made everyone's breath catch. A massive world ship, its dark form blotting out the stars, tendrils of energy already reaching towards the system's habitable planet. "My God," Sarah whispered, the enormity of the situation hitting her anew. "There are millions of people on that planet." Zaraela, present via hologram, pulsed with a mix of determination and fear. "We must act quickly, Captain Chen. Our sensors indicate the world ship has not yet begun full consumption of the planet." Sarah nodded, pushing aside her awe and terror to focus on the task at hand. "Agreed. All ships, battle formation Delta. Prepare to engage on my mark." As the fleet moved into position, Dr. Zhou's voice came over the comm. "Captain, I'm picking up some unusual readings from the world ship. Its energy signature is different from the one we encountered before." Sarah frowned. "Different how?" "It's hard to explain." Dr. Zhou replied, frustration evident in her voice. "It's like it's singing." Before Sarah could respond, Dr. Okafor cut in, his voice tight with excitement. "Captain, I think it's trying to communicate." A tense silence fell over the bridge. Sarah exchanged a glance with Zaraela's hologram, seeing her own mix of hope and apprehension reflected in the alien swirling colors. "Can we respond?" Sarah asked. Dr. Okafor nodded. "I believe so. We've been working on a way to translate our thoughts into something the world ship might understand. It's experimental, but—" "Do it," Sarah ordered. They had come too far to not try every option. What followed was unlike anything Sarah had ever experienced. As Dr. Okafor and the luminary telepaths began their attempt at communication, a strange sensation washed over the bridge. It was as if the very fabric of reality was vibrating, carrying with it fragments of thought and emotion too vast to fully comprehend. Images flashed through Sarah's mind, endless drifting through the void between galaxies, a hunger so profound it transcended physical needs, loneliness on a cosmic scale. But beneath it all, a spark of curiosity, of recognition. When it ended, Sarah found herself on her knees, gasping for breath. Around her, both humans and luminary were in similar states of disorientation. Did anyone else see that? Commander Morrison asked, his usually steady voice shaking. Zarella's hologram flickered, its colors swirling in patterns of awe and confusion. We all experienced it, Commander. The world ship, it spoke to us. Dr. Okafor, his eyes wide with wonder, began to speak rapidly. It's incredible. They're not just predators, they're explorers. Each world they consume adds to their knowledge, their understanding of the universe. But they've been alone for so long, they didn't realize there were other sentient beings out here. Sarah struggled to her feet, her mind reeling from the implications. Are you saying we can reason with them? Convince them to stop consuming inhabited worlds? I believe so, Dr. Okafor nodded. But it's more than that. They're curious about us, about our way of life, our experiences. I think they want to learn. As if to confirm his words, the world ship's tendrils began to retract from the planet below. Its massive form shifted, turning towards the combined fleet not with hostility, but with what could only be described as interest. Over the next few hours, an unprecedented exchange took place. Using a combination of Dr. Okafor's translation algorithms and luminary telepathy, they began a dialogue with the world ship. It was difficult, often confusing, as they struggled to bridge the gap between their vastly different modes of existence. They learned that the world ships were indeed ancient, born in the early days of the universe. They had evolved to survive by consuming the energy and matter of entire worlds, incorporating the essence of each planet into their vast consciousness. But in all their eons of travel, they had never encountered other sentient life that could communicate with them. In return, humans and luminary shared their own stories. Their hopes, their fears, their drive to explore and understand the universe around them. The world ship seemed particularly fascinated by the concept of individual consciousness, so different from its own vast, collective mind. As the dialogue progressed, an idea began to form. Dr. Zhao, working with her luminary counterparts, proposed a solution. We can't ask them to stop consuming planets entirely, she explained. It's fundamental to their existence. But what if we could provide alternatives? There are countless uninhabited worlds out there, gas giants, and rocky planets without life. If we could help guide the world ships to these planets. The idea took hold. Over the following days, as news of the encounter spread throughout both fleets, excitement began to build. This wasn't just a solution to the immediate threat. It was an opportunity for an exchange of knowledge on a scale neither humans nor luminary had ever imagined. The world ship, for its part, seemed eager to cooperate. It shared glimpses of its vast knowledge. The birth of stars, the death of galaxies, phenomena beyond the current understanding of either humans or luminary. In exchange, it learned about art, music, individual emotion, concepts entirely foreign to its existence. As the negotiations continued, Sarah found herself in yet another meeting with Zariela and the other leaders of their alliance. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Gone was the tension of their earlier encounters, replaced by a sense of shared purpose and excitement. We stand at a turning point, Zariela announced, its form pulsing with vibrant colors. What began as a threat to our existence has become an opportunity for growth beyond our wildest imaginations. Sarah nodded in agreement. The knowledge the world ships possess, it could advance our understanding of the universe by centuries, if not millennia. And in return, added Dr. Zhao, we can offer them something they've never had before. Companionship, no end to their cosmic loneliness. As they hammered out the details of their new arrangement with the world ships, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. From first contact to the brink of war, and now to the dawn of a new era of cooperation and discovery. There were challenges ahead, of course. Convincing their respective governments and populations of the benefits of this arrangement would not be easy. There would be fear, resistance, accusations of naivety. The memory of the world ship's attack was still fresh, and trust would take time to build. But as Sarah looked around the room at the faces of her human crew and the shimmering forms of their luminary allies, she felt a surge of hope. They had already overcome so much, bridging gaps of biology, culture, and understanding that once seemed insurmountable. In the end, it took months of careful diplomacy, scientific exchange, and gradual trust building. But finally, a formal agreement was reached. The world ships would be guided to uninhabited planets, satisfying their need for consumption without endangering sentient life. In exchange, they would share their vast knowledge of the cosmos. More than that, they would join the newly formed Galactic Cooperative, an alliance of humans, luminary, and now world ships, dedicated to exploration, scientific advancement, and mutual protection. As Sarah stood on the observation deck of the Horizon, watching the world ship prepare to depart for its first approved feeding, she felt a presence beside her. It was Zaraela, its form glowing softly in the starlight. Sarah chuckled. Not in a million years. When we first met, I was worried about cultural misunderstandings. Now look at us. Allies with beings the size of planets. Zaraela's colors shifted in what Sarah now recognized as laughter. The universe is full of surprises, it seems. And yet, perhaps this was inevitable. Different as we all are, we share a fundamental desire to understand, to explore, to connect. Sarah nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond. I can't help but wonder what's next. What other wonders, or challenges, are waiting out there for us to discover. Whatever they are, Zaraela replied, we will face them together. Human, luminary, world ship, we are stronger united than we ever were alone. Did you ever imagine it would end like this? The luminary asked, its mental voice tinged with wonder. As the world ship engaged its incredible drive, preparing to journey to its next destination, Sarah felt a sense of profound gratitude. What had begun as a simple exploration mission had turned into something far greater. They had faced the unknown and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. The journey ahead was long, and undoubtedly filled with new challenges and discoveries. But for the first time, they would face the vastness of the cosmos not as separate species, but as a united front. Human ingenuity, luminary wisdom, and world ship knowledge, together, there seemed to be no limit to what they could achieve. As the Horizon prepared to accompany the world ship on its journey, Sarah gave the order to engage. With a flash of light, the unlikely allies leaped into the unknown, ready to write the next chapter in their shared cosmic story. The stars streaked by, a dazzling display of light and color. And in that moment, Sarah knew that whatever the universe held in store, they were ready to face it, together.